Hey guys, Dr. Ben here. Spoke at the San Francisco Vegan Society last week. The topic was leveling up your health in 2018. So went over some real fundamental building blocks of things, habits you need to nail down to level up your health in 2018, and some real rubber hits the road tips on how to really start implementing it all. So people really love the talk. I think you'll get a lot out of it. It is pretty long, about 45 minutes. So add this to your watch later or save it on Facebook for later viewing if you don't have time to watch it all now. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks everybody for being here. Thank you Dave and Patricia for once again an awesome spread tonight. So tonight's topic is how to level up your health in 2018. And of course a big part of that is this whole food plant-based diet, which we've talked about. So just to get a sense from the crowd, like how many people here have heard of the concept of whole food plant-based? Okay, so pretty much everybody. All right, so
I'm sorry. I owe someone a $5 bill. Who? Can I see your hand? Who do I owe 5? I have one left. I have no one?
No one's claiming it. Okay.
Okay. I was sure I owed someone, but anyway, let me know. What's that? Over here? Oh, you were kidding. Hey, sorry.
Okay, so by show of hands, how many people here are looking to lose weight in 2018? Okay, lose weight. How many people here are looking to have more energy in 2018? Okay, how many people are looking to reverse a specific disease condition or mitigate a specific disease condition in the coming year?
Does that include aging?
Sure, if you think you're going to work on it, you know, then raise your hands. How many people here want to feel better but aren't really sure about making changes and are just kind of holding out hope that maybe somehow, some way, by hook or by crook, things will just kind of somehow get better next year? Or maybe some startup in the Bay Area will invent some new device or some new drug that will magically fix whatever health problem that they have. Okay, nobody? Awesome. All right, we're in the right place. Okay. So, I figure I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. I don't really recognize too many people in the crowd. But if it weren't for the concept of a whole food plant-based diet, I would probably not be here tonight. I definitely wouldn't be here tonight. I might not even be alive, but I'm here. So just to give you some idea, about 7-8 years ago, I was just another guy working in a cubicle, tech company, jockeying a spreadsheet most of my days. And somewhere along the lines, I started to get really, really sick. Like, it kind of crept up on me over the course of a year or two, and it was like being in a frog in a pot of boiling water, if we want to use that analogy amongst the vegans. But I got to the point where I was in pretty much chronic pain most of the day, muscles hurting, joints hurting, didn't really understand why, chronic fatigue, terrible digestive issues, and I didn't really understand why. I mean, it didn't make any sense, and I, sought out help from, from doctors, and pretty much just got shuffled around. Why don't you go see the endocrinologist? Why don't you go see the rheumatologist? And you didn't really get any answers. Just got a lot of drugs that, kind of helped a little bit, not really. And so kind of got to the end of my rope, and trust me, the last thing I ever wanted to do was go vegan, right? Like that was just the bottom of the priority list, but when nothing else works, you're gonna take a shot and do something radical. And so within a month or two, I was feeling about, 90% better. And that's when you become radically evangelical and tell you, oh my God, you guys, you gotta know about this thing. You just eat like fruits and vegetables and like stuff just from the produce section, and it's like amazing, and you won't believe how good you're gonna feel. And of course, you know, what happens? Nobody cares, right?
Because you like your crazy.
Yeah. But luckily, you know, through, you know, the magic of the interwebs, we're able to get a bunch of people here tonight that are actually interested in that kind of thing. So that's good. So I guess when everybody had heard a whole food plant-based, I didn't really feel like I needed to explain it too well, but it's one of those things that's so simple in concept. It's like just stuff that grows out of the ground, a plant. Okay, so that's fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So it makes grocery shopping a lot easier. Like you're sticking to the produce section and the bulk bins. And then there's this whole other part of the store with the Cheetos and the Oreos and the microwave dinners that you don't even need to worry about. People are asking me like, you know, well, here's a photo of the ingredients. Can you tell me if this is healthy? Like, should I eat this? And my response most of the time is like, if you're looking at ingredient labels to try to figure out, like, is this good for me? It's like there's a game going around on you don't even realize it's being played, okay? Because real food doesn't got ingredients, all right? It's like, what's the ingredients in rice? It's just rice. What's the ingredients in potatoes? It's just potatoes, okay? So if you're reading ingredient labels, it's like you've already lost the battle, all right? So if you want to be successful on this, the world is not designed, modern America is not designed for you to be successful eating a whole food plant-based diet. It's designed for you being successful eating Arby's, TGI Fridays, and Taco Bell, okay? So if you want to be successful, you have to design your own sort of reality around making sure that you are successful, because the more temptation you encounter, everybody's only got a finite amount of willpower. All right, so if you're constantly putting that to the test, if you've got a tub of Earth Balance in your fridge, or, you know, what are the varieties of Doritos that are vegan now? I can't keep up with it, but, you know, if those are constantly, you know, tempting you, you're gonna run out of willpower eventually. So to set yourself up for success, like, your home has to be like your base camp where it's your rules, there's nothing tempting, because the last thing you want to do coming home after a long day of work is to you've already decision fatigued, your willpower's already pretty sapped, have to resist temptation of something you don't really want to be eating. So I got a YouTube channel, you can look it up. I just made a video of like what I keep in my fridge and my pantry and just sort of show you guys. But I would say, like, setting yourself up for success, a big part of that is just making sure that your home follows the rules. Wherever you go, there's going to be temptation. Don't let it happen in your own house. Point number 2 is come prepared, okay? That means pretty much anywhere I go out, anywhere except here, because I know Patricia's got me covered, but I am bringing my own food, okay? I am that guy who's got the Tupperware, go to Dungeons and Dragons night with my friends, and I got my salad, okay? And that's like, if you ever do, I don't know if anybody plays D&D, but that's like the junk food, like everybody's bringing like the junkiest food possible, okay? So not the place where people eat healthy. So I got my salad, I got my fruit, I got my sweet potatoes, and it's kind of sit, you know, by myself and do my own thing. And people used to ask, but now it's just like, that's just the thing Ben does, okay? And people just learn to accept it. So I would say bring your own and bring more than enough, because number 1, you might be hungrier than you thought you would be, and then you're all out of food, and suddenly everything's fair game, right? It's like, well, you know, I ate all the good stuff. What do we got over here? So you want to have extra. Another thing is, like, people may want to try, like, oh, I've never had a persimmon. I mean, what do those taste like? Because it looks like a tomato. No, actually, it tastes like, you know, pumpkin pie and candy corn. Like, you want to try one? And like, you don't want to be the guy who's like stingy and it's like, here, there's this really cool looking food that I can't let you have because I only have a finite amount. So bring extra, okay? So let's see, what are my other tips on this? So, contrary to all that, this is not going to make much sense in context of those points, but you got to be able to roll with the punches, because every once in a while you're going to make a mistake. You're going to slip up. And what a lot of people do is they go, oh, I had some hummus with some oil in it. Might as well go get, butcher's son or vegan donut gelato, or they just use it as like a launch pad for a downward spiral, right? And then, so, well, tomorrow I'll go back to the diet, but today, I made one mistake, so might as well just make all the mistakes. And that is a recipe for disaster. Trust me, I've done it a fair enough times now that I know better. But to just, you make a mistake, you just get back on the horse. And if you say, Monday I'll get back on it, or tomorrow I'll get back on it, that's just a recipe for disaster. So be willing to forgive yourself when you make mistakes, because ultimately, whole food plant-based diet is simple, right? It's there's 4 food groups. It's all confined to one part of the grocery store. We know what it is, but succeeding on it becomes this mental game that it's a long-term thing to be able to stick to the program and to be able to get back on the horse when you fall off. So I think what's not talked about, especially in the plant-based movement, is the mental aspects of it, and staying positive and staying in that positive headspace where you can make good decisions for yourself. Because if you're in a negative headspace, if your emotions are starting to spiral down, if you're stressed out, if you're feeling upset or angry or whatever, it becomes so much easier to make a bad decision. So one of the other tenets I really advise people to do is meditation. This is really a game changer. I started doing this about 5 years ago, 2012, that's now 6 years ago. And it really allowed me to build what's called a second attention. And people who meditate will tell you this, that you get this ability to catch your own thoughts, especially when they start to spiral downward. Especially when things get bad, you have that ability to catch your own brain saying, whoa, wait a second, this isn't the end of the world. Step away from, the whatever bad food it may be, or, don't drive into whatever drive-through that is. Just, you're able to catch yourself out of, obviously bad food cravings, but a whole host of other things, and stay in that good headspace. So people always ask me well, how do I do meditation? And it's one of those things, it's as simple as a whole food plant-based diet. In fact, it's so simple, it's whatever I could do to describe it would make it more complicated than it is, because it's really just sitting there with your own thoughts. And I do this usually 15 minutes twice a day, but you got to build up. I started out 5 minutes once a day, and even that drove me crazy. Within 3 minutes, my brain was just chattering so much I would get frustrated and walk away. So I would say start small with that, and you'll notice that second attention build, and it becomes easier and easier. And dealing with cravings and negative emotions and things like that, you find that you just catch yourself before things get really bad. You catch yourself. It's easy to, like I talked about, roll with the punches. Okay, made a mistake, get back on track, as opposed to brah, downward spiral, give me all the Oreos. Or the boxes of Numinos, right? From Whole Foods, it's a step up, right? It's not Oreos, you have these ways of rationalizing bad decisions, and then you don't have, when you have the part of your brain that can catch you rationalizing the bad decision, it becomes much easier to not make the bad decision. So let's see. So what else I want to talk about is that it can be very easy to drive yourself crazy, especially when you make these bad decisions, you beat yourself up, and there's all this guilt and shame, and then so you want to eat more bad food to cover up the bad feelings, and I would just say, honestly, it's almost better to eat a little bit of the bad food and not drive yourself crazy, as opposed to deal with the stress of oh my God, I'm not doing this good enough. Oh my God, I'm screwing up, and this negative talk, that stress is going to have more of a bad effect on your health than say eating a little bit of hummus with some oil in it, or having a slip up here and there. Like, big picture, I used to drive myself nuts, and when I said, okay, you know what, like if I make a mistake, I'm not going to freak out about it, that was when it actually got easier to stick with the program, as opposed to like constantly beating myself up. So be forgiving to yourself. Allow yourself to make mistakes, and just know, you can always jump right back on the horse. Don't wait till Monday or tomorrow or New Year's or whatever. Just right then and there, you can make the decision to get back on. So, third thing I wanted to talk about, I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough either, is getting enough sleep. Because, yes, thumbs up, this is huge. I think I finally paid off like all the sleep debt I had created in my college years in my 20s. It took a while, but finally paid it back. It's a lot of interest. But if anybody is having like digestive issues, this is like the number one thing. Like, people say, oh, I tried the vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, I tried it, and it was just like, I was having like, I was bloated, and I had gas, and this and that, and my digestion, that's like red flag. You are not getting enough rest. Like, absolutely, because there's this part of your nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest. And if you're not resting, you're not digesting, okay? If you're well rested, it's easier to make good decisions. When you haven't had a good night's sleep, it's so easy to spiral into a negative headspace. And of course, there are tons of other benefits for your health, but as far as like being able to make good decisions on a day-to-day basis when there's constant temptation, being well slept is like one of the number one things you can do. Okay? So, I tell people I go to bed usually between 9 and 10, which is like, people are like, what? It's like before midnight? How's that? I'm never going to do that. So I would just advise, these glowing rectangles we all carry around in our pockets, they like shoot photons into our eyes, it stimulates our brain, and then it's like, oh, why can't I fall asleep? Well, because you've been looking at a glowing rectangle for 16 hours of the day. So I would advise at a certain point, turn the glowing rectangles off. So the phone, turn it off, or put it on airplane mode, stick it in your dresser drawer, the laptop, put it away. Give yourself like an hour before bed of like no glowing rectangles, okay? That's gonna help being able to fall asleep so much more. Because if you're like, as you go to bed, reading text messages, like you're just, yeah, or whatever, scrolling, whatever, getting quality sleep is gonna be so much harder. So much harder. So, last thing for leveling up your health in 2018. Any guesses? Exercise. So people are always asking me like, what's the best exercise to like lose weight, or to like get fit, or to have a six-pack, or to, whatever. And it's like they want like the shortcut. And the answer, like, there's no best exercise for everybody. And a lot of times it comes down to finding what you like. Because if you're forcing yourself to do Pilates, you're forcing yourself to do CrossFit, you're forcing yourself to, I don't know, do with whatever is like the workout trends. I mean, they just come in cycles, and they just go and go and go. And it's like they're here and they're gone, and they're here and they're gone, and I can't keep up with them. You got to figure out what you like and continue to do that. And if you don't know what you like, now it's a new year, it's a great time to start investigating and trying things. Think about, what did you like to do as a kid, okay? Has anybody heard of this app called ClassPass?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it allows you sign up, you get an X number of classes, and these classes can be redeemed at like 90% of exercise places, whether it's like a dance studio, it's yoga, it's CrossFit, it's like anywhere. And it's super cheap. They're basically, totally ruining a lot of these industries are going out of business because they're basically dragging the prices down so far that they have to lower the prices to be competitive. But consumer wins, and you get to try out a bunch of stuff, and they don't even let you like take more than like 1 or 2 classes a month at any given place. You have to try out other things. So I highly recommend ClassPass. So let's see. What I also see happen is that people get into this like analysis paralysis where they're like, I was thinking about getting into running, but like, what do you think about, should I get like a trail running shoe or like a racing flat? And it's like, I've compared them on, and they send me this email. It's like, I've compared them on, it's like, you just need to go outside and start running. Like, you don't even like, it's like trying to figure out which $200 shoe to buy, because it's basically a stalling tactic to not get out there. So I'd say, get out there, suck at it, be terrible at it. Everybody's going to be bad when they first start out. Get through, have fun learning, and eventually you find yourself that you actually have some proficiency at whatever you decide, figure out that you enjoy. So that is it, guys. Open to Q&A now.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Ben. You mentioned some stuff that we should eat, but other stuff that like we should specifically try to eat, like B12 vitamin or other, I don't know, along those lines.
Sure.
Foods or vegetables.
So that's a good question. So what you should eat, I think talked about it, like I would say get as much fresh fruits and vegetables as possible. Those are the best. A lot of people, they want to like cook everything, and a lot of times like the best food is just fresh out of the ground or off the tree. So as far as B12, I get a shot like once every few months. There's there's like a sublingual, there's a spray, there's lots of different ways to get it. I'm pretty agnostic as far as the method. I just, rather than take a pill every day or a spray or remember to do something, just go to my naturopath, just get shot, bam, I'm done. I find that that has the best absorption. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. John.
Yeah, hey Ben. Along those same lines, what do you think about long-chain omega-3 fatty acids like DHA, EPA? Is there I've heard that those tend to degrade and become like free radicals really quickly, but I've also heard that that's not true. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
That's a good question, and it's a very nuanced point. I'm gonna have to give like a long explanation. Okay, so there's all this rage about the omega-3s. You got to get your omega-3s, and they are very important. Okay, and so what happens is in America we have omega-6s and omega-3s. Omega-3s are the good guys; they're anti-inflammatory. The omega-6s are the bad guys; they're pro-inflammatory. And with things like vegetable oils and all this fried food, that's just like omega-6 city. Okay, it's just like you're swimming in omega-6s and no omega-3s. And so most people are getting like 17-to-1 ratio, like way too many 6s and not enough 3s. And the problem is that the enzymes in the body that break down the 6s are the same ones that break down the 3s. So if you're eating all these omega-6s, you can't really absorb or convert any of the omega-3s you get. So lowering your omega-6 intake is, avoiding things like oil, is way more important than trying to supplement omega-3s, because you can't outrun your own bad habits. And so when we find you get about an even ratio of both, the body can easily convert what's called ALA to DHA and EPA, which are the forms that are active in the body. And so there's like a lot of FUD out there, fear, uncertainty, doubt about if you're a vegan, you're not going to get enough DHA and EPA, so you got to take fish oil. Well, that's only true if you're eating a lot of omega-6s. So if you're cutting down your omega-6, you're eating whole food sources like flax, chia, hemp seeds. I throw hemp seeds in pretty much every salad I make. You're going to get omega-3s. There's hemp oil and algae oil and flax oil. I would say stay where those are refined. they're going to rancidify, they're going to go bad. Get them from a whole food source. That's my answer. Cool.
I guess, aren't greens, I guess if you eat enough greens, they're a source of fat in some way as well. And not just like a handful of kale or something, but if you eat a substantial salad, there's fats in it.
Yes, there's fat. I mean, hence the term vegetable oil. Like there's fat in vegetables, there's fat in fruit. Leafy greens are a source. I've found personally you can get enough omega-3s from fruits and vegetables, but you really got to eat. I mean, you got to be eating like 2 pounds of greens a day, and I don't think that's feasible for most people. So I really recommend seed-based sources, flax, chia, hemp, stuff like that.
What about nutritional yeast?
What about? What's your question about it?
Like as far as eating, is it considered plant-based? It's not. Where does it fit in the 4 groups?
Sure. So anything that's a yeast is a fungus. So it's not an animal, it's not a plant, it's not a bacteria. It's like its own thing. But like mushrooms are vegan, right? Like we consider them a plant. So I guess yeast is a plant. I am not a fan of nutritional yeast. I have severe reactions to it. I advise against it. I think for a number of reasons. I mean, look, if you guys want to go home and like eat nutritional yeast, everybody loves it. It's like I can't tell you like, just dismiss a fan favorite. So if you're gonna eat nutritional yeast, you're gonna do it. But here's my 2 cents on why I don't. So it produces naturally occurring MSG. The G in MSG stands for glutamate. Glutamate is a hormone that your brain makes. It's an excitatory hormone. So when you take in exogenous excitatory hormone, it's essentially a neurotoxin. Okay, it's stimulatory, and that's why it's like people really love the nooch. It's just like, oh, this is so good. It's like eating MSG, or it's a stimulant to your brain. So of course you get that like umami flavor from it, and people are just like, I gotta put nooch on everything. Oh my god. So for that reason, I advise against consuming. And the term nutritional yeast, it's like, then there's this other thing that say, oh, well, there's B12 in nutritional yeast. Well, it's not entirely true. There's B12 analogs, which aren't actually like B12, so you don't actually get the nutrition, but they show up on a blood test as B12 unless you get what's called an MMA test, and we're going down the rabbit hole. But basically, there's fake B12 in nutritional yeast. It's not real B12. So if you're like eating it because of the B12, you've been fooled.
What's fake B12? I don't understand what you mean.
So it's a molecule that in many ways is like very similar to B12, but it's not quite B12, and so it binds to receptor sites, but it doesn't actually function as B12 in the body.
I'd never heard that before.
Me neither.
Yeah.
In the back there?
Yes, I'm in favor of reading ingredients because you may need for your supplies kidney beans, white beans, garbanzo beans, and you do need to read the label. So that's the point where you would read labels.
Okay, so yeah, if you're buying like cans of beans and you want to see like they have sodium added, for my beans I buy them all dry. But yes, in that case, yeah.
Your own beans.
Yeah. I find they digest better, especially when you're able to soak them and rinse them, that kind of thing. I honestly, it doesn't seem like that much work to me. I just always have a queue in my fridge of ones that are soaked, so it's never like I gotta like, oh, I'm gonna have beans, just gotta wait like 3 days. That's no fun.
But I think your point with the labels was that if you're buying a product and the product is like 13 ingredients rather than
Yeah.
something, your point was like don't buy something where the product is ingredients, right?
It has a lot of ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the product should be an ingredient.
Yeah.
Ideally,
It's
yeah.
a conglomerate of something, and it's this something is these ingredients rather than like the beans or something. I think that's right.
It's like what Michael Pollan says. If your grandmother wouldn't have recognized it as food, it's not food.
Yeah. Dave.
I've understood as far as the yeast, the only way you get B12 from yeast is if it's fortified. There's certain food yeast that is fortified with B12. That's the only way you can get that, right?
My understanding was that nutritional yeast produces B12 analogs. But yeah, a lot of foods are fortified, and fortified is definitely okay. I mean, that's how meat eaters get B12, because we like inject the cattle with the B12, and then they go, oh, meat's got B12, only because they fortified it, right? So they're supplementing too, they just don't realize it. But I would still recommend getting your levels checked and getting a supplement and not relying completely on fortified food. So I've been favoring this side of the room, so go ahead.
I was curious though, I know you work at True North, and I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what the treatment plan looks like for patients there, and kind of the school of thought behind the treatment program, how long people are there, and what you've seen as far as the transformation of the typical patient that goes there and what happens and what they're eating while they're there.
Okay, sure. That's I'll try to answer that succinctly, because I could talk about that for a while, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. So treatment plans can vary. There's some fundamental building blocks of it, but a lot of it revolves around like how much time can they be there, because not everybody can just like take 6 weeks off to, and like still pay their rent back home and still have a job.
They stay there, correct?
Yeah, they stay. I mean, there are people that visit, and there are people that are outpatients, so to speak, that live in the area or drop by or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's based on how much time they have, the severity of their condition. So they do fast people, but there are certain contraindications that people can't fast. Like if they have, liver or kidney disease, their body's going to detoxify so fast that the detoxification organs can't really handle it. So not everybody gets fasted.
Can we get a little bit of context on that?
Oh, sure.
You guys are talking about.
So True North is a vegan diet and lifestyle inpatient center in Santa Rosa. They also do medically supervised water fasting. So like Dr. Clapper works there. You may have heard of him. And there's I interned there. There's about 10 plant-based doctors that work there. And so yeah, a lot of people. Some people who are on a lot of medications generally can't be you have to, if somebody's going to fast, they really have to be taken off all medications. And so if the doctors don't think that they can do that safely, they won't fast them. They might do a juice fast, or they might just eat the food. And so usually the worse people are off, the better and faster they get better there. The more progress that they make. So I saw some crazy wild stuff, especially with people fasting. There's this disease called Sjogren's disease, which is an autoimmune disease where your body attacks its own salivary glands and its own tear ducts. So you can't produce tears, you can't produce saliva, you go blind and your teeth rot out. It's not a very fun disease to get. And there's no cure. If you go on sjogrens.org or whatever, they say there's no treatment, there's no cure for this disease. And I saw 2 people reverse it. And one guy, the way he detoxified it was so much earwax, it was coming out his ears. And he couldn't hear. I came in to check on him, and he's like, I can't hear you, I got stuff in, and it's just gushing out. He's detoxifying whatever it is that we don't really know that causes this disease. So yeah, saw some pretty amazing stuff there. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to ask a question of how it pertained to the type of diet and lifestyle that we're talking about here, and just kind of how that's applied in a clinical situation. Because I work with cardiac patients, and we have started to talk a lot more about a plant-based diet with them, and I just think it's neat what you all do. So
sure. I don't work there anymore, but I did intern there. But if you are you a nurse?
I'm a nurse.
So if you want to go and do an internship there for a month or 2, you can. Anybody who's in any health field, you can basically stay and live there and eat the food for free, and it's a pretty good deal.
I contacted Dr. Clapper, and he let me hang out with him for the day, and yeah, I could spend the day doing rounds and having the big rounds, and they do amazing work there. It's really, really interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, they have a kitchen that's making the food, and everybody who's not fasting is eating the food, and it's basically like this, except it's completely salt, oil, sugar, flour free. So a little bit more strict, but pretty much the same thing. And a lot of people are getting well just eating the food, not even fasting or anything like that. So.
How do you have the conversation with someone? I mean, I think at least myself, I know I have people in my life. For instance, my uncle just emailed me, or he likes to write letters, really, really long letters. And one thing I get out of his really, really long letter was that he's taking 17 pills. And my first thought was oh my God, my first thought was like, I want to write him a letter, be like, have you ever thought of a plant-based diet? My uncle in North Carolina. I don't think, you know, he's gonna, I don't know how, I'm trying to figure out how do I approach this subject to him, or how do I convince him in a way that I think will be palatable? You know, like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I'd love to have any kind of suggestions, because you're right, what you said, oh my God, I found it, like your first, how you first approached it didn't really go over well with lots of people, and it's certainly gonna not go over as well with somebody who's in their 70s.
Yeah.
So how do I do this? Like, how do I, like, I'm trying to figure out how do I communicate that to them?
Sure, that's a good question. So.
He doesn't leave North Carolina.
So yeah, I have an uncle who lives in Pennsylvania, and he's never like driven. It's funny, he loves cars and works on cars, but he never has driven more than like 40 miles out of town. And you know, and as people get older, like let's face it, they've been I don't want to be ageist, but they've been doing things for a long time a certain way. It's much harder for them to make a change. And so, like the short answer is like don't try to change him, because the people are just going to resist.
Right.
The best you can do is like set a good example, be a positive example, be the lighthouse that people come to, okay? And you'll be amazed at the people that come out of the woodwork saying, coming to you with questions. So is he asking like, hey, I'm on 17 pills, what am I going to do? Like, do you have any idea? Or is he just telling you, mentioning this in passing? Like,
Who's mentioning it in passing, and then, you know, to me it seems like, well, it was important enough that he needed to tell me in a letter. I mean, yes, it was long. But then also telling me about his huge vegetable garden. So I was like, wait, I wonder if I could somehow leave this in there. And because that depresses me, I always feel like, you know, like that's a lot of pills. And and I'm not near him, so I can't be this beacon of light. You know, I go and you can see my lifestyle. I've done that with other people in my life. And, you know, you just want people around you to be healthy, and obviously he's not healthy.
mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, do I send him a plant-based, like, cookbook? Hey, thought of you, you know, like.
Like movies?
Documentaries. Huh?
You can send them some documentaries.
Yeah,
I've sent some of my family members Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Oh, okay. Because he's not fat, he's just too.
Well, I wish it wasn't called that. But it's the same sort of idea of like your food is killing you.
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean,
It's not real food.
I have plenty of, you know, it's not like none of my family's on board with this. Like, I'm the weird guy who like lives out in California and like eats all these fruits and vegetables. Like, I'm the black sheep of the family.
You're the green sheep.
The green sheep. And I do have one cousin who's like stereotypical like coal country hunter, you know, drinking beer, shooting beer type of guy. And he got MS. And you know, he's like younger than me. And he came to me asking for help, and he's like on board, like 100% committed. But other than that, like, nope, everyone just thinks I'm crazy, right? And I'm starting to think he's crazy. So it's like, if there was like a magic bullet thing you could do, I would tell you. But really, it's tough to like see these. Like, my dad's on a bunch of medications, and to like have the conversation with him. It's just like, it's the same conversation. You know, my doctor says I need to take it for the rest of my life. It's like, you just sort of gotta love them where they're at, and like hope for the best for them. Because the more you try to control them, the more they're gonna resist. So probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but like honestly, there's not much you can do. Just try not to alienate them.
That's okay if I do, it's fine. That's because he's healthy.
I find sometimes too, it's just like just saying it without attachment to what will happen to what they say, and then also just sometimes approaching it like, I've been hearing a lot of good research about this, or I've heard this thing like in passing, you know, just to mention it that way. They can either look it up or ask a question about it.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
So can you save me from the habit of making my salad dressings out of oil and vinegar, basically, and mustard?
Sure.
Can you recommend one that might be a nice one to start with that would be amazing without those ingredients?
Yeah, what I've been doing lately is this tahini and lemon juice. So getting just like tahini from the store, and then I forage most of my lemons. Like, they're free in the neighborhood. Why would you buy lemons in California? People do, and they sell them at the store. I don't get it, right? But like the lemons are out there, so like half the dressing's free, right? And you just basically like, get a little bowl, scoop some. Maybe not in the city. I live in Berkeley. There's like fruit trees. Okay. There's an app called, there's a website, fallingfruit.org, and people post locations of fruit trees. Fallingfruit.org, definitely a good one to know. You know, it's like, I got so many free persimmons this year, and it's like, I mean, yeah, well, that's another thing. It's like, they sell them in the store, I'm not gonna buy them. Like, I know a guy I just picked from his trees, says, well, pick them for me, because otherwise they all just fall on the ground and go bad, and then like the birds come and it's a mess and I don't want to clean it up. I'm like, okay, sure, so we clean off these trees, and there's something called East Bay Fruit Save where we give it to the homeless. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, so free lemons, take some tahini, you mix it with the lemon juice, it kind of thins out the tahini. It looks like tahini's kind of expensive, but then it also, like the lemon juice, the sourness of the lemon, somehow it brings out the saltiness of the tahini. So it's like really salty, yeah, and it tastes like kind of Caesar salad-y, but it's like completely whole foods. So that's a really good one. In the summertime, I like to blend mangoes and tomatoes. It's like just 50-50 of those. That's a good one.
Salsa.
But
Salsa makes a good justice.
yeah. There's like avocado and lemon juice or lime juice. You can throw in, you blend that. You throw in like some green onions or some, some other herb like basil. That's a good one. There's lots of ways. I wish I could say, oh, there's the one recipe book that's really good. There's a lot of these. I feel like there's.
I have forks over knives. I have that.
If you look up on
You
like
can go
the.
to Straight Up Food, which is Kathy Fisher. She's an SOS free
Yeah, I was gonna say.
chef that works at
Look
True
for
North.
SOS recipes.
And
Salt,
Plant
oil.
Street Culinary Gym, which is Katie Mays. She's also an SOS free chef that teaches classes up at True North. And they have great recipes. I mean, I can roll one off the top of my head for you right now because I make it all the time.
Go ahead.
You want it? Yes. It's a half a cup of cashews, raw cashews, half a cup of water, soak, get them soft, then pour off the water. And then I add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, a table of Bragg's apple cider vinegar, some dill, some garlic salt, not garlic salt, granuled onion, and I blend it up in the Vitamix. Cool. And then I thicken it. I don't like it real thick, so I just add water to it. It's very tasty.
Yeah, you can look up.
Calories. I do half beans, half white beans, half cashews, and the beans. Who's this lady over here? I can't remember. What's her name? Right?
Yes?
Instant Pot. Saved my life when you're cooking beans. An Instant Pot. Right? It's a pressure cooker. An Instant Pot.
Yeah, so he cooks them in less time. In fact, you.
For the beans?
Cook the beans
Yeah.
in the Instant Pot.
You can, in fact, you can cook dried beans in it, right? This way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you Google like oil-free salad recipe, dressing recipes, a million will pop up. So, let's see. I think you had your hand up for a while.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, because intermittent fasting is this huge thing that people keep talking about, and I just was curious about what your opinion on that is.
Sure, that's a good question. It's definitely like hot topic now. You got intermittent fast.
Like, what is this?
I think there's a lot of hype around it. It's being sort of sold as this bill of goods now, like this weight loss secret. Just only eat 4 hours a day, But that's not really sustainable in the long term.
4 hours people just eat? Okay.
Well, yeah, it's like I fast 20 hours and I eat, from like noon to 4 or something, right?
Yeah.
And to try to cram in all the calories. And so I don't think it's an effective way. I do intermittent fast, but just in the way that I only eat when I'm hungry. So sometimes I have my last meal at 4 o'clock. And a lot of times I don't have my first meal until 10. But in the modern world, especially with processed foods, everything's so over-seasoned. It's like people have no sense of when they're hungry or when they're full or when they're satiated. It's just like, oh, there's food, And so they're totally out of touch with that. So as you do this for a while, eventually you develop a sense of like when you're full and when you're hungry. And if you eat when you're hungry, you'll oftentimes find that you wait a while until you're actually hungry. And so you end up naturally intermittent fasting. But I think as like some specific thing, I'm not going to eat till 11 o'clock, and I'm not going to eat after 7 o'clock, or whatever it is, it basically becomes disordered eating behavior, and it's going to lead you down a bad road. More focus on getting in touch with your own sense of satiety and your own sense of hunger, and listening to those and obeying those.
We have about 3 minutes left.
Oh, okay, okay.
Wheatgrass, good for your dog.
I don't think it's anything like it's like just as good as any other green. And the fact that you have to juice it, it's kind of inconvenient. But I don't think it's like a superfood or anything.
Sorry, what was the question?
Wheatgrass.
What are your thoughts on nightshade vegetables and how they affect inflammation? And if you're trying to fight inflammation, is that something that should be avoided?
Nightshade vegetables.
Nightshade vegetables and inflammation.
So it's actually fruits, because it's tomatoes, eggplant, bell peppers.
Okra.
And so these foods have nicotine in them, and that's what makes them nightshades. Small amounts of nicotine, but the nicotine's in there, and it's shown to be preventative against Parkinson's. But some people do have sensitivity. So if you have sensitivities to nightshades, I would say stay away from them. But otherwise, like, no, I think that I don't have a problem with them. So.
All right, one more question.
Well, darn, I have like a done.
And I'll stick around if you guys want to come up one-on-one.
Be out of here by 8.